Okay, I'm delighted to be with Bill Addy, who's the Chief Executive of the Liverpool BID Company, and today we're going to have a conversation about the next ballot that the BID Company are involved in, and that's for the Retail Business Improvement District. The original bid for Liverpool 20 years ago, that pilot scheme was launched, and of course every 4 years the bid has to go back to its customers, to the people who run businesses in the retail district in this instance, and get reaffirmed in terms of being able to continue the great work they do. I think the interesting thing this year is the fact that that sector, more than any other perhaps, has been hit hardest and challenged most by the pandemic and all the things that have followed. So Bill, a really challenging time, as I say, for retail, but what the BID have managed to do during that period is really support those guys, and I think at least get them through the worst instances of the things that they've been facing.
Yeah, that's very true, Frank, and thanks for bringing me back again to talk through this. Very important time for us as a city. As you mentioned then in the introduction, the Business Improvement District in Liverpool began over 20 years ago with that initial pilot, but we're coming now to our 5th renewal. It's incredible, the 5th term of the bid. We're going into the 3rd decade of having a business improvement district here in Liverpool. And since the early days of having City Central, when we were focused very much on St John's Centre, Whitechapel, Met Quarter, Church Street and parts of Lord Street, we now have 3 business improvement districts. And we know that during COVID, we were very able to support those businesses through the work that we did, working in partnership with the stuff that we did with yourselves, with the Liverpool City Council, how we were able to signpost, how we were able to direct businesses to grants, how we were able just simple things like just actually providing a communication space for those businesses. It's very important for us to do that because business improvement districts are about building communities. And you mentioned this, we're going to ballot again. We're now just notification ballot went out yesterday, 27th of February, and we're now moving towards a ballot. The papers will go out on the 13th of March for a ballot period through until just after Easter. It's our 3rd ballot in 2 years, and we led the Culture and Commerce bid through ballot in 21 very successfully. We expanded it across the waterfront. We, as we know, launched the accommodation bid ballot and went to that ballot with all the hoteliers back in the autumn, and that bid is now starting. And now we're back to bringing the retail and leisure core of the city centre, engaging with those businesses as we do consistently and constantly, and then taking that through into other areas of the city.
And just explain to people what the geographical spread is now of the retail bid.
Yeah, so the current retail leisure bid, if you think about a starting point, and I always look at the St John's Centre in Lime Street with St George's Hall, and you start there and you work up and come along Lime Street all the way to the Bombdown Church, traverse down Bold Street, through Church Street and Lord Street, up onto North John Street, back along to Victoria Street, and then Victoria Street you come up to St John's Lane. That was a very fast drag, but actually the map is on the publicity material on our website and on our link to our business plan, so you can see that. But that's the core of it. And if you think about the city, prior to the start of this century, prior to Liverpool 1 coming, that was the key retail, wasn't it? St John's Centre and Church Street. Church Street is still one of the most thriving retail destinations in the country, where we know we've got some great brands who consistently grow in those locations.
And the great thing about bids, just again to explain to people listening perhaps don't necessarily understand what the benefits of Business Improvement District are, it basically enables us to raise funding to add value to what the city does. And of course at the moment, given those challenges that I spoke about earlier that retail have, given the fact that we need to continue to press for more footfall into the city, we need to get attractions here, we need to make sure that that's such an important sector to us, the visitor economy, thrives. That's the sort of thing that the Business Improvement District gets involved in, isn't it?
Exactly right. I mean, today I've been involved in the destination marketing board meetings and also the LVEN, the Liverpool Visitor Economy Network. Now for the destination marketing, the BID company primarily through the culture and commerce bid, but also through the current retail and leisure bid, is contributing £600,000. £600,000 of private sector business that's going to support Marketing Liverpool and the proposals, along with the money that comes in from the combined authority, that will deliver the destination marketing that this city needs. The destination marketing that will ensure that our hotels, restaurants, bars, clubs, retail shops and our events organisations, our theatres and museums are filled to capacity. That's the key to it, because we've got a growing visitor economy and we have an increasing supply of hotel rooms. We've got to make sure we stimulate demand. And as you mentioned, the public sector money is reducing. That's why the private sector, through the Business Improvement District, is able to step in.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting the fact that the decisions that are taken, the investments that are made by the bid are done on behalf of its members. So those private sector companies who do pay the levy do have a say in terms of the way that money's invested.
Exactly right. Then we have those operating boards. So the Liverpool BID Company has 4 boards, and 3 of those boards are the operating boards that run the accommodation bid, retail and leisure and culture and commerce. And those boards are made up of levy-paying businesses who are then able to direct where the expenditure is and where are the priorities that need to be met by the additional funding that we supply.
Now, in terms of the process, you've mentioned that we go to ballot in March. All the details in terms of the business plan for that can be tapped into the link below, which will be along the bottom of the screen now, Bill.
Great.
So people can have a look at that. But then talk us through how people get the ballot papers, if they don't get the ballot papers, what they need to do, and most importantly, perhaps, when the final result will be announced.
Okay. So for the ballot for any business improvement district, the people who are able to ballot are those who will be the potential levy payers. So for the retail and leisure bid, which is going forward now, we have over 330 hereditaments, they're called. It's the technical term, which means they have a liability to pay business rates. Those 330 businesses know who they are already because they've already received notification. We have been consulting with them over time, but now they get a formal notification which will be sent out to them and should be arriving in the post any day now. That's sent out from a company called Civica, because the ballot is conducted by the local authority using an external agency. They will send those notifications out. That notification indicates that the ballot paper itself will be coming out in 2 weeks' time. And so on March the 13th, ballot papers should land. And the legislation that sets up business improvement districts also enables and controls how ballots are controlled. So the ballot for the business improvement district is a physical paper. That paper is sent out via the same company, Civica in this case, to the specific address that's listed against the particular hereditament, the particular liable party. They then have, that comes in the post with a return envelope. It's a form which will have 2 boxes on it, yes or no, I support the Business Improvement District business plan. Cross in the box, yes, hopefully. Send it back, because make sure it gets sent back. They are collated, and then at 5 p.m. on the 12th of April, which is the final day of ballots, that's the final time that Civica can receive them. The next day, April the 13th, we will get notification and we will be told how many businesses have voted. So how many businesses out of the 330 vote for us. So that indicates what the turnout is. And then whether we win or not depends on 2 measures. One of them is whether we get more than 50% of the number of people who have voted. So the turnout, we get 50% plus of that turnout, we win. But also each hereditament, each liable party has a rateable value attached to it. Those rateable values are collated. So we have to get over 50% of the rateable value total. It sounds complex. It is, believe me. It's relatively straightforward once we know that figure. So we will be told how many have voted, what was the number that voted yes, what was the percentage of rateable value that voted yes. And if both those measures are over 50%, the Business Improvement District comes into place and it will operate from the 1st of June 23 to the 31st of May 28.
Okay. Now, I want to move the conversation on a little because we've mentioned the visitor economy, how important that is to us. And the most important event as far as the city is concerned this year, undoubtedly, is Eurovision. And again, I think it's important just to tell viewers the role that the BID played in ensuring that Eurovision came, because this was very much a private public sector partnership in terms of the approach for the application to host the Eurovision here, but it was a private sector bid that was led by the BID.
Yes, yeah, it's exactly right. As the bidding process went forward, we know there were over 20 cities, towns and cities that went for it initially. Got down to 2, Glasgow and Liverpool. And I know from the bid team here in Liverpool, and that's the team that were bidding for Eurovision, not the Business Improvement District team. It's a slight confusion, but from the City Council bid team that was being led by Claire McColgan, she knew that Glasgow had significant private sector money invested into it. And so she was able to ask the question, who in the private sector can provide us with some guarantees about private sector funding? And Liverpool BID Company were able to do that. I spoke to my board, and the board quickly said, well, yeah, in principle we can do that. Let's see afterwards. But most importantly, let's give the City Council support by saying that the Business Improvement District will represent the private sector and ensure that we contribute significant funding to make it work.
And I think if you look beyond the Eurovision, and you look at the role in which the business improvement districts can play in terms of this city's future, you know, we're at a bit of a crossroads, aren't we? Politically, there's going to be big changes in May. We know that the commissioners are appointing new permanent executives now to the directorate. There's going to be new marketing strategies. We've now got that all-important visitor economy board in place on the back of winning successfully the bid for the hospitality sector. And when people say to me, you know, well, what does the BID do? I mean, it does lots of things in a practical sense, from, you know, the placemaking stuff, the public realm, the security. Yeah, all of those things are hugely important. But I think its biggest strategic role is that it offers the face and the opportunity for the City Council and others to see that there's a legitimate private sector body in town which is independent, that they can go to for help and support at a time when we're going to need that moving forward, because we all need to push this city forward now, don't we?
Exactly right. And the Business Improvement District, with a 20-year pedigree of delivering, is that organisation that can deliver that, because Liverpool BID Company was established as a partnership between the City Council and the Chamber of Commerce back 20 years ago. But now it's very much, we have steered it into becoming a very much private sector focused company. It's led by a private sector board. Yes, it has representatives from the City Council. So not only do we support the council, we can also challenge the council. We can also ensure that the voice of the private sector is there. But it gives us stability, it gives us security, it gives, well, significant funding. If we are successful with the retail and leisure bid, the total funding that will come into the 3 bid companies will be about £2.8 million per annum, which is all invested back for the benefit of business in the city and for the accommodation bid across the wider city as well.
And as you were saying, because of the restraints and constraints now that councils have, not just Liverpool but across the country, the initiative around the bid is so important, and it's so important that we continue to get that funded into into Liverpool.
Exactly right. And you know, for me, the Business Improvement District provides a glue across the city. So we are able to recognise independent areas within the city centre. We work closely with them, but most importantly, we bring all of that together. So through unity, there is strength. And that's key for us. And one of the other things, if I can just say, Frank, is that we've been very strategic in how we've moved the dial on the rateable value for levy-paying businesses. So we've moved away from challenging and levying small business to actually moving that dial so that only businesses with a rateable value of £45,000 or above pay the levy. And that's because we believe those businesses have a greater capacity to pay the levy. The smaller businesses, it could be the start-up businesses, small pubs, clubs, small restaurants who have struggling with cost at the moment with the cost of living crisis, where we know with energy costs, skills costs, wage costs, food costs. We thought it was far better to allow them to be part of a business improvement district in that they benefit from the work that we do and they still have a voice, but actually we don't levy a bill against them.
Yeah, and that's crucial, actually, a great point, because obviously a lot of businesses at the moment are facing difficulties financially. Lots of them are excluded in terms of paying that levy. But the other point I just want to make here, because obviously we as an organisation, Downtown in Business, operate across the country, and what we see in other places is a little bit of confusion, because in Birmingham I think there's 5, 6, maybe even 7 business improvement district boards, and they all operate independently of each other. We went through a process in Manchester recently around that hospitality levy, and they're looking at us in envy now because we got it away first, so we're the first city that's been able to get that hospitality level in place as a city, and it's going to make a huge difference in terms of the resource that we can put into that visitor economy. So it's not often we get one over on Manchester, but we did there. And then even in other cities, there's 2 or 3 of these things running around. And I think the beauty about what we've done here in Liverpool is that we've been able to manage a process of extension of the business improvement district movement, which is absolutely right because we crucially need that additional investment. But what we've been able to do is keep it under one umbrella. So there's a coordination, there's complementary activity that goes on, and we've not got a situation where people are running all over the place doing their own thing and it's disparate. So, for me, and I've said this many times on many public platforms, it's great what we've got at the moment, but I want to see it extended further. I think the whole of the city centre should be under this umbrella of the BID, and it's got to be one BID. There may be several boards that look after specific things, but it's got to have that clear direction, that clear leadership and that clear strategy of one board.
Well, I would go back to the original birthing of the Business Improvement District in Liverpool that came from that vision. It came out of actually Liverpool vision. It's over 20 years ago now, back in the early 2000s. And the vision was that the business improvement legislation that they knew was coming in should be used to develop business improvement districts, but would be one operating company that would manage those. And it's key for me, for the city, that we continue with that legacy. And that's why we've done it. So this year we were invited by Hope Street. Hope Street CIC has got a very strong independent group in Hope Street, but they approached us, asked us to present to their board. We went away and their board voted and said they want to be part of the Liverpool BID Company journey, to be included within the retail and leisure, because they see the strength. Because now we've got the strength of Castle Street, the key streets in the city. We know was Castle Street, Bold Street, Hope Street. They're the key brand names around food, around great restaurants, around visitor economy, and around a great experience. So there are those 3 streets. There are also obviously the cultural districts, the theatres. All the theatres will be included now. So all of those great cultural institutions in the city, from the Philharmonic Hall to the Royal Court and the Empire, the Unity, Playhouse and Everyman, will also be included within the BID Company. Excellent.
Bill, as always, pleasure to speak to you. Good to see you. And listen, let's hope the other success we have this year is Everton staying in the Premier League.
Well, that's also a foregone conclusion, Frank.
Fingers crossed. So if you're in that retail BID area, as I say, all the details at the bottom of your screen. You link you right through to the manifesto, if I can put it that way, the business plan for the retail sector over the next 4 years or so. Make sure you vote, make sure you get your ballot paper, make sure you have your say. They do a great job. I think often under the radar, a lot of the things that the Business Improvement District Board do deliver, you won't even know about. So have a look on the website, have a look at the links that we're showing on screen now, and you'll find out exactly what's in it for you. And as I say, have your say. Great, as always, to be with Bill, and up the toffees.